Did Forza Horizon just kill Forza Motorsport? You know, I was driving around Forza Horizon 6 the other night and I had a really strange thought. Not that Forza Horizon was better than Motorsport, and not that Motorsport was worse than Horizon, but the fact that Xbox might have accidentally created more of a problem for themselves. Right now, there are two Forza franchises. One of them is absolutely thriving, and the other has spent years trying to rediscover what made people fall in love with it in the first place. The more I thought about it, the more I realized this isn't really a story about Forza Horizon, it's a story about motorsport. Now, before anybody starts typing in, let me stop you there. No, I don't think Horizon has killed motorsport. In fact, that's more of the wrong question. Motorsport was already struggling long before Horizon 6 arrived. What Horizon has done is shine a very bright light on just how big the gap has now become. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Because whether you're a Horizon player or a Motorsport player, or someone who actually enjoys both, I think the future of the Forza franchise is about to become one of the most interesting conversations Xbox is about to have. So let's start with Horizon. I've seen quite a few people online saying Horizon 6 is revolutionary, and honestly, I don't think it is. And that is not an insult. If anything, I think it's more of a compliment. Playground Games haven't spent years reinventing Horizon, they spent years refining it. That in itself is a huge difference. When you load up Forza Horizon, it immediately feels familiar. You're driving around through an incredible open world. The graphics are stunning, the roads are beautiful, the car list is enormous. Within minutes, you've unlocked something new, found an event, earned a new car, and you're off exploring again. If you played Forza Horizon 4, you feel at home. If you play Forza Horizon 5, well, you feel at home. If you've never touched the Horizon before, you probably understand why so many people love it in the first hour. That's not lazy development, that is understanding your audience. Playground know who they're making the game for. Now, I know this might upset a few Forza Horizon fans, but I actually think Forza Horizon 6 is a reskin of a reskin. And before you click off, hear me out. The reason I say that is because I don't think it's a bad game. Quite the opposite. The formula works. If you own a restaurant that is full every single night, you don't just suddenly throw away your best-selling meal and replace it with something completely different. You improve it, you refine it, you make little changes. And that's what exactly Horizon has done over the last decade. The driving still feels familiar for the Horizon players. The festival atmosphere is still there. You can still blast along fields, drift across mountains, and completely ignore the road if you want. And it's comfortable, it's familiar, and millions of people absolutely love it. But here's something I noticed after spending more time with it. Once that initial excitement wears off, once you've admired the graphics, driven through the cities, taken your screenshots, what's actually keeping you playing? For me, it's not the races, but the freedom. It's deciding to head off into a random direction just to see what is there. It's meeting friends online, it's cruising, it's discovering roads you haven't driven before. And I think that's something Horizon understands better than most other racing games. Most people buy Horizon because they aren't trying to become racing drivers, they're car enthusiasts. They want to experience cars, listen to them, modify them, cruise them. The racing almost becomes secondary, and that's absolutely fine because that's exactly what Horizon has always wanted to be. Then Microsoft did something I honestly never expected. They brought Horizon to PlayStation, and suddenly something became extremely obvious. People weren't buying Horizon because it had an Xbox logo on the box. They were buying it because they generally wanted to play Horizon. That tells you everything you need to know about how valuable this franchise has now become. If you're sat in Microsoft boardroom looking at the numbers, you are smiling because you've got a racing franchise that appeals to casual players, hardcore car enthusiasts, content creators, families, friends, controller players, wheel users, almost everyone. From a business point of view, it is a dream. But while all of that is happening, I couldn't stop to think about Forza Motorsport. Because here's the thing, I don't actually think Motorsport has a racing problem. I think it has an identity problem. And those are the two very different things. I've played this franchise for hours. I've spent days of my life tuning cars, testing setups, running league races, grinding rivals. I've had some of the best online races I've ever had in motorsport. So when I criticize it, it doesn't come from someone who hates the game. It comes from someone who's watched one of his favorite franchises slowly lose confidence in itself. Because underneath everything, the physics are good, the racing can be fantastic, the foundations are there. So why does it feel like something is missing? I think the answer starts nearly 20 years ago, back when Forza Motorsport knew exactly what it wanted to be. And I don't think it's going to be possible to have this conversation without talking about Forza Motorsport 3 and 4. Now, before anybody says no, I'm not saying they were perfect games, because if you went back and played them today, you'd probably find plenty of things that have really not aged well. And that's not really the point. The point is how those games made you feel, because back then Forza Motorsport wasn't just a racing game. It felt like it had an identity. It knew exactly what it wanted to be. It celebrated cars, it celebrated racing, it celebrated the culture surrounding motorsport. Everything from the music, the menus, the dealership, the career mode, the progression, it all worked together to create an experience that felt bigger and simply completing another race. When you brought a new car, it actually felt exciting, not because it was rare, but because you earned it. You worked your way through championships, you saved your credits, finally brought the car you was looking for hours. That was satisfaction. Today, games are often terrified at making players wait for anything. And if they do, they go way too far on the other end of the scale and make you wait forever to be able to unlock stuff. Within the first hour of Horizon, you probably own half a dozen incredible cars. That's the experience Horizon wants to create. Constant excitement, constant rewards. Motorsport was different. It wanted you to build something. It wanted you to progress. It wanted you to become a better driver. And honestly, I miss that a little bit. Not because it was endless grinding, but because progression gives you meaning to everything you do. Winning matters when you're working towards something. Buying a new car matters when you've had to think about whether you can actually afford it. Building a garage matters when it represents hundreds of races rather than a couple of lucky wheel spins. That feeling slowly disappeared, not overnight, not because one developer made one terrible decision. It's happened bit by bit. One feature disappeared, another system became simpler. Career mode became less important, presentation became more clinical. Little by little, Forza Motorsport slowly lost its personality that had separated it from every other racing game. And I think that's where a lot of people misunderstand why long-time fans become so frustrated. It wasn't because the graphics weren't good enough, and it wasn't because there wasn't enough cars. It wasn't because there wasn't enough tracks. It was because something much harder to describe had gone missing. Soul. I know that's a word a lot of people throw around all the time. Like, this game has soul, that game has soul. But honestly, I don't know how else to explain the original Forzas. Older Forza games felt like they were made by people who generally lived and breathed car culture. You could feel it. The little details mattered, the atmosphere mattered, the presentation mattered, everything felt handcrafted. Nowadays, a lot of modern games feel like they've built around engagement statistics. How quickly can we get the player into a race? How long until they unlock another car? How many hours before they stop playing? Those are important questions from a business perspective. But players don't fall in love with spreadsheets, they fall in love with experiences. That's what Forza Motorsport used to create, experiences. Then came Forza Motorsport 23, the reboot, the fresh start. The game that was supposed to bring everything back. And I'll be honest, I was excited, really excited to be honest, when Microsoft kept saying built from the ground up. We believed them. I thought that was it. They've really got themselves back on track. This was going to be the motorsport that reminded everybody why the franchise was so respected. Because the timing couldn't have been better. Gran Turismo 7 had proved there was still a huge audience in circuit racing. Sim racing was becoming more popular than ever. More people were buying steering wheels, more people were building racing rigs at home, and if there was ever time for motorsport to make a statement, this was it. And here comes the frustrating part. I still believe they had got one thing absolutely right. The driving. Strip everything else away, the actual experience of driving the cars is generally enjoyable. The physics are good, the cars have weight, tyre strategy matters, fuel strategy matters. You can feel yourself improving as a driver the more time you invest, and that's why I still play it, because underneath everything, there is generally still a good racing game, which makes what happened even more disappointing, because instead of everybody talking about how brilliant the driving was, they were talking about how broken everything is. Replays, career mode, missing features, bugs, crashes, things that should have never been dominating the conversation around motorsport's biggest racing reboot. And once the conversation starts, it's incredibly difficult to change it because first impressions matter, especially in modern gaming. Players forgive a bug, players will forgive a crash, they'll even forgive missing content if they believe it's coming. What they won't forgive is losing confidence, and I think that's exactly what has happened. People stop believing that motorsport knew where it was going. And once that confidence disappears, people quietly move on. Not because they hate the game, but because something else is waiting for them. Something easier, something more polished, something that actually works. And unfortunately for motorsport, that something else happened to be sitting right next to it. And that was called Horizon. The more I played motorsport, the more I realized something. I wasn't getting frustrated because I didn't enjoy driving. I was getting frustrated because every time I took a step forward, it seemed to take another step backwards, and eventually found myself asking, what actually went wrong? Now, unless you've worked at Turn 10, none of us know exactly what happened behind closed doors. We can read the reports, we can listen to interviews, we can hear sides of the stories from former employees. But at the end of the day, none of us was sat in those meetings. So everything I'm about to say is based on what we've seen as players and what eventually happened after launch. Because from the outside looking in, it felt like Turn 10 were constantly firefighting. Every month there was another update, another track, another handful of cars, and another community update explaining what is coming next. And on paper, that's exactly what people have been asking for: regular updates, fresh content, a live service motorsport. But here's the problem. I don't think Forza Motorsport needed more content, I think it needed more time. That's a huge difference. Imagine building your dream house, the walls go up, the roof goes on, the kitchen looks fantastic, but then someone points out the foundations are cracking. They'll fix the foundations first. That's where Forza Motorsport got itself into trouble. Instead of stopping and making sure the core was rock solid, it felt like there was another deadline waiting, another update to ship, another car pack to release, another live stream to prepare for. As players, we kept getting new things to look at. Ooh, that's nice. But the problem we'd been talking about since launch was still there, and eventually people stopped getting excited. I remember seeing updates announced, and instead of thinking, I can't wait to try that, I found myself wondering, well, has the replays been fixed yet? Have they improved the career mode? Has the penalty system changed at all? And that's a very different mindset, because players stop caring about shiny new content. It usually means they've lost confidence in the game that's underneath it. I've said this before on my channel, and I think it's the best way to describe it. It's like putting a teddy bear plaster on a stab wound. The plaster itself isn't the problem. The problem is that it doesn't solve what's underneath. Adding another GT3 car is great. Adding another circuit is always welcome. But if players are still experiencing the same frustrations 6 months later, those additions stop feeling exciting. They start feeling like distractions. Now, I know that's probably unfair on the developers themselves, because I generally don't believe the people making the game didn't care, and it's quite the opposite. Game developers don't spend years building a game because they don't like racing. They do it because they're passionate about it, which is why I actually think the bigger issue was priorities, or maybe pressure. Pressure to hit deadlines, pressure to keep monthly updates coming, pressure to make motorsport look like a successful live service title. The trouble is, racing games aren't battle royales, they aren't shooters, they don't need constant stream or cosmetic updates to survive. They need trust. Players need confidence that when they invest hundreds of hours learning new physics, building tunes and racing online, the game is going to keep improving. I honestly think quarterly updates would have been much better for Forza Motorsport. Given the team 3 months, fix the bugs properly, test everything, deliver meaningful improvements instead of racing towards your next monthly deadline. Yes, players will complain about waiting. They always do. But I'd much rather wait 3 months for a brilliant update than get 4 rushed updates that barely move the game forward. Because quality builds confidence, speed does not. And then there's online racing, and this is probably the part that disappoints the most. When Motorsport launched, online races felt alive. 24 drivers in a race, different strategies, different skill levels. There was always someone to battle. Even if you qualified badly, you knew you was going to be racing through the field, but slowly. Those grids started shrinking. Maybe someone quit after turn 1, maybe a few people disconnected, maybe others simply stopped playing altogether. Whatever the reason, the result was always the same. Halfway through the race, you look at the leaderboard and half of it has disappeared. Motorsport is built around competition. The whole point is racing people, reading their mistakes, planning overtakes, defending your position, managing tyres when someone sits half a second behind you for 5 laps. When half the field has vanished, the magic has disappeared too. And that's what worries me, because I still have a fantastic race in Forza Motorsport. Some of the best online battles I've ever experienced have happened in this game, but they're becoming harder and harder to find. And not because the driving has suddenly become bad, but because fewer people are there to race. The real danger, not angry YouTube videos, not negative reviews, not criticism from people like me. The real danger is when people quietly stop logging on. No drama, no announcements. They just move on. And that's exactly what Horizon has never allowed to happen. It keeps giving people reasons to come back. Not because it's perfect, but because it understands what its audience wants. Which brings us back to the original question. If Horizon understands its audience, and Motorsport has spent years trying to rediscover its own, what does Xbox do next? Let's go back to the question that started this entire video. Did Horizon 6 kill Forza Motorsport? No. At least I don't think it has. I think Motorsport was already struggling long before Horizon 6 arrived. Horizon didn't create those problems. It simply made them much harder to ignore. Because when you have 2 racing franchises sitting under the same roof, comparisons are inevitable. Whether it's fair or not, people are going to compare player numbers, sales, reviews, community engagement, and right now Horizon is winning almost every one of those battles. From Microsoft's point of view, that is fantastic. They've got one of the biggest racing franchises in the world, millions of people are playing, millions of copies sold, a successful PlayStation launch. A game that continues attracting completely new audiences years after release. If you were looking at purely a spreadsheet, you'd probably say Horizon is the future. But I don't think the answer is that simple, because Horizon and Motorsport were never supposed to do the same job. One is built around freedom, the other is built around competition. One is celebrating driving, the other celebrates racing. Those are 2 completely different experiences, and I think Microsoft still needs both. If I was sitting in charge of the Forza franchise tomorrow, would I invest heavily in Horizon? Oh, absolutely. You'd be mad not to. It's got a proven success rate. But I'd also take a percentage of that success and invest it back into the Motorsport franchise, because that's how successful business often works. One product becomes the financial powerhouse. The best seller keeps the lights on, giving the more niche products room to grow. I don't see why Motorsport can't be that specialist. In fact, I think it should be. One of the biggest mistakes Turn 10 could make now would be trying to turn Motorsport more into the Horizon side of things. We've already got a Horizon, it's brilliant. Likewise, I don't think Motorsport should spend the next 5 years trying to become Gran Turismo either. Gran Turismo has spent nearly 3 decades building its own identity. Trying to copy it now would only make Motorsport lose even more of its own personality. Instead, Motorsport needs to become the best version of Motorsport. Take everything that's already working, the physics, the online racing, the strategy, the tuning, the accessibility, then build around those foundations properly. Give us a career mode that actually feels like a career. Make progression meaningful again. Celebrate motorsport culture. Celebrate manufacturers, celebrate racing history. Make us feel like we're building something rather than simply completing another menu. Because that's what the older games really understood so well. They gave us reasons to care. It had personality. I'd also like to see Motorsport lean more into the simulation aspect of racing. Not to the point where controller players feel left behind. That would be a massive mistake, but enough that fills a gap within the market, accessible enough that anybody can jump in, deep enough that experienced racers still have something to master. That, to me, is where Forza Motorsport should live. Not chasing Horizon, not chasing Gran Turismo, leading its own category. Because despite everything I've said today, I still believe in this franchise, and if I didn't, I wouldn't still be here talking about it. I've played Motorsport for thousands of hours. I've built this channel around it. I've met people through it. I've had races I'll never forget because of it. So when I criticize this game, it's not because I wanted to see it fail. It's because I'll know how good it can be. And maybe, just maybe, that's where Forza Horizon's success becomes interesting. Because maybe Horizon isn't Motorsport's biggest threat. Maybe it's actually Motorsport's biggest opportunity. If Horizon keeps bringing in millions of new players into the Forza ecosystem, some of those players eventually are going to want something different. Some will want cleaner racing, longer races, tyre strategy, league racing, competition, and when that day comes, Motorsport needs to be ready for them. Not half finished, not rebuilding itself again, ready. Because if Xbox gets this right, the future of Forza doesn't have to be Horizon or Motorsport. It can be Horizon and Motorsport. Two different games, two different audiences, one incredible racing franchise. And honestly, I hope that's what we get. Because I hate to look back in the next 5 years and realize we weren't asking whether Horizon killed Motorsport. We were asking why nobody saved it when there was still time.